This doesn't make any sense. I should not have swallowed that. Hi, my name's Matt Whitman. I'm a Christian. I like having conversations with my friends about faith, God, the Bible, philosophy, and I like film. And what you're watching right now is my attempt to cram those three interests into one singular thing. I'm calling this the 10-minute Bible Hour, and what I'm going for with the deal really isn't terribly complicated. I'm going to take a book of the Bible, in this case the book of Acts, and I'm going to work through it from the beginning to the end, one little chunk at a time. And that's probably going to take a while. But I think it'll be fun and it'll be worth it. I'm going to borrow from other people's work. I'm going to do a bunch of my own research, including historical research to try to understand how the original audience that this was written to in the first place would have understood it. But mostly, I'm just going to look at the words on the page and try to carefully think through what they mean and what the author is trying to communicate. Sometimes I think the Bible can be overwhelming and come off as much more complicated than it really is. It makes sense that people might be intimidated by it because it self-purports to be written by the God who is the maker of all things. And it says that this stuff has major implications for the people who read it in this life and the next. But if we take away all of the pressure of those implications for a second and just look at the thing with eyes, we can see it's still words on a page. And most people are a lot better at words on a page than they give themselves credit for. When you or I read a book, we're not intimidated by it. We can tell who the main characters are. We can tell what the plot is. We can tell what themes the author is trying to communicate through subtext and the actions of the characters. And with attentiveness, we can even get to know the author of those books as we start to understand their values and their agenda in their writing. Well, at its most basic level, the Bible is the same thing. It's a book written in conjunction between God and human authors. All of this book was written to an original audience at some point. The thing didn't descend from heaven on a pillow held by naked little angels on each of the four corners one day. It was written over time by people in places to an audience. And what unifies all of this otherwise very disparate material is that the same God claims to have been the inspiring source of all of it, and the same God's work is detailed in all of it throughout history. There are other very fascinating holy books that I have read and appreciate, but none of them are of the same nature as the Bible in terms of its place in history, where it claims to have come from, how it addresses the details it chooses to address. It really is a very unique book. And because of that, it's a very compelling and very interesting book, whether you're a theist like myself or someone who doesn't believe in any of this. Which brings me to my next thought on what I'm going for with this whole exercise. Whether someone is a person of great faith or no faith, I think we can all benefit from distancing ourselves from all of the noise associated with religion and the Bible and all of the implications that go along with this debate politically and socially and in the culture wars that you hear about. All of that might be fine to debate and kick around or whatever. That's not what I'm interested in here. I want to tune that out and do nothing but look at what the text says, what the author seems to have been going for, and how the original audience would have received it. Most of the Bible does not consist of the author of the Bible writing to anyone who might ever read it in all of history and telling them to do stuff or not do stuff. There's a little bit of that, but for the most part, the Bible is a story about a main character, God, who makes everything, sees everything kind of fall apart, and then rather than walking away from the mess, this main character, God, chooses to bend over backwards to bring about redemption. I'm going to use this time simply to try to understand the raw material better. I'd also like to try to do this in a way that isn't entirely boring. I think boringness would be a great disservice to what is a very interesting text. Okay, with all of that said, I'm going to move ahead with this thing based on the assumption that God inspired human authors to write it at a specific time in history to a specific audience. I think we're going to find that it's a really fun and fascinating story. I think we're going to find that we learn a lot about who the God of the Bible is and who he holds himself out to be. And after that, I think it's up to each of us as individuals to decide what we think is the right way to respond to it. Hopefully, I can play the role of facilitator as best as I'm able and have a little bit of fun doing it. As far as format goes, the title says 10-minute Bible hour. 10 is a little bit short, so it'll be 10-ish. I'll try not to go longer than 20. In pretty much every episode, I'll introduce the text that we're going to look at for that day. Then I'll kind of walk through the story more specifically. Then we'll think about it in its larger literary and historical context and see if we can't come away with a few big picture observations about what is being said. I guess that's it. Thanks for being a part. Keep an eye out for new episodes at least every Tuesday. With any luck, I'll do even a little better than that. You can look me up in the comment section if you want. And again, my name is Matt Whitman, and this is going to be the 10-Minute Bible Hour.